Once upon a time, there lived an old man whose whole life, he had devoted himself to reading books. He wanted to be the most knowledgeable person in whatever field there is in this world. When he was done reading a book, he would walk around the village boasting to the villagers about how he was the most learned fellow in the village. And true to his words, the old man could discuss any topic in the world with ease and in details. So one day, the old man noticed that one of his shoes was worn out and it was at its final stage before getting disposed. He decided that he would go to the market the next day and buy a new pair of shoes. As was the tradition back then, since shoes were not labeled according to the shoe size number, if you needed to buy a shoe, one would take a stick, take the measurements of your foot with it, cut it to the size of your foot, then take the stick to the shoe seller so that he or she could select the best fitting shoe for you. The shoe seller would place the stick inside the various shoes until he or she found a shoe in which the stick would lie perfectly inside. That evening, the old man took the measurements of one of his foot using a stick. After that, he placed the stick under his mattress. Early the next day, the old man, wearing his worn-out shoes, headed to the market to go and buy the new pair of shoes. On the way, his main focus was on meeting people that he could educate about his latest book. Finally, he got to the market, and as if Lady Luck was on his side, he spotted a shoe that was by far the best make he had ever seen. Without saying a word to the seller, the old man started inspecting the shoe in comparison with all the information he had read about good shoes. He came to the conclusion that this shoe was indeed a good bet. However, before he could buy it, he had to make sure that it was the perfect size for his feet. It was at this point that the old man frantically searched his pockets for the stick that he had taken his foot measurements with, but it was nowhere to be found. It dawned on him that in his excitement to get to the market on time, he had forgotten the stick right where he placed it, that is, under the mattress. Feeling angry about himself, the old man, without talking to the shoe seller, stormed out of the shop and started his journey back home. On the way, his worn-out shoe couldn't take it any longer and so it became completely worn out. The old man was forced to throw it away and walk barefooted until he got to his house. In his house, the old man found the stick in the exact place he had placed it the previous day. He vowed to himself that since the sun outside was too hot, he would wake up early the next morning and head back to the market. Early the next day, not forgetting the measurement stick, the old man started his journey to the market. Though barefooted, he was in high hopes that all this would come to an end once he bought the pair of shoes that he had seen the previous day. However, much to his disbelief, when he got to the marketplace, he couldn't find his target pair of shoes. Sensing the confusion with the old man, the shoe seller asked him, "Sir, what's the matter?" The old man went ahead and explained to the shoe seller who he was and what had happened. At this point, the shoe seller told him, "I'm really sorry, sir, but that pair of shoes was bought yesterday moments after you stormed out of my shop without saying a word to me. I am a good shoe seller and had you told me yesterday that you had forgotten your measurement stick back at home, I would have taken you some new measurements using my own sticks. I respect the fact that you are an educated man, and I really love that about you. However, in this case, you only had knowledge about shoes, but I have in-depth experience about them. All you had to do was ask me for it." Feeling stupid, the old man hung his head in shame as he started his way back home barefooted. So, what's the moral of the story? Learn to think outside the box. Education is good, but sometimes, the solutions to your problems requires you to just think outside the realms of education. Also, never underestimate one's level of experience in any field that you venture in. Be teachable, cause ignorance is quite costly.